You have to judge us. Who can shoulder the immense, awesome responsibilities of the presidency?
You've been doing this for 30 years. Why are you just thinking about these solutions right now?
I know how to really work to get new jobs and to get exports that help to create more new jobs.
Well, you haven't done it in 30 years or 26 years.
Well, I've been a senator.
You haven't done it.
And I have been a Secretary of State, and I have
Your
done
husband signed NAFTA, which was one of the worst things that ever happened.
Well, that's your opinion.
She's telling us how to fight ISIS. Just go to her website. She tells you how to fight ISIS on her website. I don't think General Douglas MacArthur would like that too much.
The next segment, we're continuing the subject of...
I have a plan to fight ISIS.
No, you're telling the enemy everything you want to do.
No, we're not.
See, you're telling the enemy everything you want to do. No wonder you've been fighting. No wonder you've been fighting ISIS your entire adult life.
I have no reason to believe that he's ever going to release his tax returns because there's something he's hiding.
Typical politician. All talk, no action. Sounds good, doesn't work. Secretary Clinton doesn't want to use a couple of words, and that's law and order.
Secretary Clinton, last week you said we've got to do everything possible to improve policing, to go right at implicit bias. Do you believe that police are implicitly biased against black people?
Lester, I think implicit bias is a problem for everyone, not just police.
The cybersecurity question was kind of like sort of a softball that one would think he was going to go to the emails. They only talked about emails very briefly, and they didn't talk about immigration at all.
Well, he had one good line where he said it was more than a mistake. That was done purposefully. You had 5 people given immunity deals, as a result of your so-called mistake, which brought it home. But there was a lot of time that he was given to exploit the issue, which has been a major issue in the campaign, and it went unused. He went back to the taxes and playing defense on that.
What do you make of she came out swinging on this, that he stiffs the little guy and he doesn't pay the contractors, and he didn't really defend it other than to say maybe they didn't do a good job, maybe they didn't do the job to my liking, which led to some people sort of oohing and eyeing in the debate room. Was that a mistake for him to say that?
I thought Mr. Trump at different times tonight showed great restraint, more restraint than I may have in the face of fire and lies, particularly at the end where he literally could have gone there and made very clear that he came ready to say some rough things if she was going to challenge him about his abuse, about his record on women. And then he decided he wouldn't do that in front of her husband and her daughter. And frankly, Megyn, restraint is a virtue, and it's a presidential virtue. And I think for all those people who love to talk about tone and temperament, they ought to go replay that clip and think of all the things that were going through millions of Americans' heads that he didn't say. I really appreciated it. The other thing is that, Donald Trump is somebody who has employed tens of thousands of people over the years. Think about that. He's compensating them. They're getting benefits. They're getting health care. And many of them are women. And he's promoted women to some of the highest echelons, including in his campaign and certainly in his corporation. What jobs has she created? Who has Hillary Clinton employed? And the State Department doesn't count. We pay for them. They're in taxpayer dollars. So I think his record on business creation and job creation is unparalleled on that stage.
Why didn't he go harder after the email issue?
Well, he was the only one who raised the email issue tonight, actually. The moderator followed up by saying, he mentioned your emails. Do you have a response, Mrs. Clinton?
He might have had a question ready, and Trump got it to him first.
Perhaps.
Sometimes that happens.
Perhaps.
Moderating.
So Donald Trump did mention the fact that she has deleted 33,000 emails. That's very much on the minds of Americans.
Do you think he's going to go after it hard? I'm talking about Trump supporters who wanted to see him go after that more, which has been a big issue for a lot of voters. Do you think we'll see more of that in future debates from him?
Well, I hope we'll see more of that even before the debates. In other words, we don't have to wait for these 3 90-minute blocks, Megyn, to find out who these people really are on the issues. But we did have to wait for that with Mrs. Clinton because she doesn't really give many policy speeches.
No.
If she's talking
or
about policy,
press interviews.
That's right. Thank you. If she's talking about policy, we don't know because we're not donors at her fundraisers. And so, and that's an incredibly important point here because Mr. Trump was out there every single day talking about policy. She waited until she filled her head with all these facts and figures, came to a debate, and made sure we heard everything.
No, it's harder. It's much harder when you're sitting in this chair and I can play the soundbite of you saying how TPP is the gold standard. I mean, that's a much harder situation than being on the debate stage, which is why we hope she'll come here.
Yes.
So let me ask you to grade both performances, his and hers.
Oh, I'm so bad at that.
Just take a stab at it.
I mean, I'd give them both a satisfactory in that I guess 90 minutes went too quickly for me. There are so many issues that could have fallen into those particular categories. America didn't hear that she's for late-term abortion, sex-selective abortion, that you can find out the gender of the baby, and then
social issues.
Right, and that she was absolutely against gay marriage in 2008, emphatically so. The first time she lost president, and this time when she's going to lose president, she changed her mind completely. There wasn't much on the border, and I think, frankly, her very amnesty-like open borders policy on immigration, what would she really do with Syrian refugees? They're very different on that issue. But that's not a failing so much as of anybody on the debate stage so much as just a limited time.
Yeah. He was taking heat just a moment ago for interrupting her. You know, she was saying things with which he disagreed, and he would pipe in saying, not true, or whatever. They weren't, it was sort of a back and forth. Was that a mistake, or was that fair game?
It's fair to defend yourself, and I think sometimes when you're in a situation like that, you're just so shocked that somebody would lie and try to spin it in such a way in real time in front of tens of millions of people, Megyn, that you feel the only way to defend yourself is your natural reaction. Remember, he's not a politician, and so Hillary Clinton has participated in 34 primary debates. Let me just repeat that, 34 primary debates. It's a remarkable number.
He did all those primary debates and said he won everyone.
He did, as a non-politician. She's a practiced politician, and so he never asks me as a pollster, what word do I use? Which way should I look? What tie should I wear? And it's that we don't have those conversations. I respect that. But no, by the way, I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No.
That wasn't nice, but it wasn't 25.
Go for it.
No, here's what I want to get out. He was saying not true, or no, or this is how it was, or that's a fact. And instead of interrupting, you know what she was doing? She was rolling her eyes. She was very glib, and sometimes she had a smirk on her.
Last question. Why did he say that he never called climate change a hoax when he has many times, and suggest that he didn't suggest it was for China's benefit, because he did?
Well, I think what he's saying is, as a presidential candidate where he's really studied these issues and consulting with experts, he has said very clearly.
He said it recently. He said that climate change is a hoax, and suggested that it inures to China's benefit.
I can tell you what he does say often.
No, I'm telling you, that's what he says. So why did he deny it?
He thinks it doesn't make it's man-made. He does think, he has said that some of these scientists are exaggerating it because they're paid to do so. But he also has been very clear. They're very different on climate change. It's probably a really bright line demarcation for them, because
they are. But you're suggesting that she lies, and I think the conclusion of most people is all these politicians lie, and we just have to find out which are the lies and which are. Well, he is now.
Well, but in the newest ABC News Washington Post poll, Megyn, more Americans think that she's not honest and trustworthy than him by a pretty significant margin, and I think part of it is because she has a record that is now going to be scoured.
Thank you very much for being here on a very busy night. That's Charles. What'd you think?
Well, I mean, it was not exactly the knockout fight that we thought. It was a spirited fight. I think in the end it was something like a draw, but I do believe that the draw goes to the challenger, in the sense that Trump did not go over the line, and the very fact that he could go 90 minutes on the same stage automatically elevates the challenger. That's just automatic for any debate of that sort. I think he did allow himself to get very defensive, and she exploited that. She kept coming back to things where he wasted a lot of time on taxes, on some of the other issues that he felt personally about, and as a result, he missed a lot of opportunities. She presented herself as she always does, stolid, solid, knows her stuff, not terribly exciting, but reliable, and I think that's the best that she can do. Likeable, she couldn't, but that was not something within her reach. And he contained himself in the sense that I don't think he committed any gaffes, but he allowed himself she could find something personal about him that would make him go down rabbit holes at a time when he had wide openings to go after her on emails and other items and let them go.
What did you make of the fact that prior to the debate, analysts were saying they both needed to reach out to college-educated white voters, that they're fighting over these college-educated white voters that would normally be voting Republican, but have some hesitancy over Trump, suburban whites in particular. Did either make any progress as you saw it with that group?
I don't think so at all. I don't think there was anything of substance that would capture one constituency or another that either of them said. I think this was all about atmospherics, all about personality. I mean, the reason the debate was so anticipated is not that people wanted to hear what would be said on this issue or that. People have heard the issues expressed by the candidates nonstop now for months. They know their positions. They wanted to see how they interact and what their demeanor is. And I thought on demeanor she came out slightly ahead. But nonetheless, because he was heralded as a guy who's sort of out of control, you can't entrust nuclear codes to, and all that. The fact that he was reasonably sort of moderating himself, I think is to his advantage. So on edge, if you had to say, does it have an impact? Probably not, but if anything, it would at least not stop his momentum.
Pow, pow, pow. I think she had a better night than he did, but he definitely didn't take himself out anything. And I would remind any Trump supporters who are feeling a little uneasy about the performance tonight, there are 3 of these suckers, right? And he's going to get better at this.
Look at what happened with Romney and President Obama.
Exactly. He's going to get better at these things as he is aware of the format and understands it better. He let a lot of opportunities go by this time, especially on her email. There was shades of Romney and Benghazi with Obama that he just let the email issue just slide right off the table and didn't press her on that.
He had one line comeback that was good.
That was a very good line where he talked about that it was intentional and there was all that, but he let it go because she distracted him by making fun of his taxes.
Right. And how are your thoughts?
The good news for Donald Trump is that he discussed serious issues for 90 minutes with the former Secretary of State, didn't commit any major gaffes, but Hillary Clinton won the night on points. She was aggressive out of the gate, and in basketball terms, she controlled the ball. So even when Donald Trump was scoring points, he was doing so in response to her on her issues. She particularly was strong during the birther exchange, his tax returns, him stiffing private businessmen. And sure, Trump scored some points, but she kind of controlled the tempo of the evening. She also had some help, I think, from Lester Holt.
How so? What do you mean? You're a media critic.
Well, for all the debate,
Lester.
For all the debate about Lester Holt and would he fact check and so forth, the most aggressive questions from the NBC moderator, the most attempts at fact checking, and the most interruptions were all aimed at Trump, particularly on the birther issue, on the race issue, and on the tax return issue. I don't think there's any question about it.
But if you don't, I mean, to be fair, I thought Lester Holt did a pretty good job.
He let them go at it, which was good.
It was a tough situation. But on those instances you're talking about, Trump didn't answer the question. Right?
Trump was deflecting, but on the email, the only thing he asked Hillary Clinton was to respond to Donald Trump bringing it up as opposed to crafting a tough question for her.
Well, you can do it like that as a moderator if you know you want to get to it. The point is to get them talking about it. But he opened the debate with a subject very favorable to Trump.
Yeah.
And Trump had a very solid 15, 20 minutes on TPP and trade, and he was doing great in the beginning, right?
Right.
It wasn't until he was put on the defense that things started to feel different.
And then Lester Holt goes into the barn, opens the door, opens all the stable doors, and waits there for Trump to come run all the horses out and trample her on email, and he starts going back to his taxes. He just let it go.
I think Hillary Clinton's bemused expression as she responded to and deflected some of Donald Trump's one-liners got under his skin. He started to talk louder, faster, as if trying to compete with her. And as time went on, it seemed to me that he got a little more disjointed, and she was...
But you tell me whether she got a little cocky in the end there. There was that one shot with the shoulders, and she had done a good job of keeping her composure throughout the debate. She had a couple lines that fell flat where she said, I think he's making fun of the fact that I stayed home to prepare for this debate. You know what else I prepare for? The presidency.
Yeah.
Like,
snap, like Zorro snap.
And Trump, it was just a throwaway comment he made. Like, I was in these cities, you weren't there. I don't know if you tell me whether it required a response or the shoulder shake.
She also made a notable error on the same thing about being cocky, about being arrogant. At the end, when Lester Holt teed it up and said, Mr. Trump, you said she didn't look like a president, didn't look presidential. Is that about her gender? Is that about her being a woman? And her answer was that stupid thing that she says all the time about, I flew to this many countries and I did that. And I'm like, you're letting it go by? Then she realized belatedly, right,
wait, I have 8
things that I'm supposed to say about him being sexist, and I forgot to say them.
And she kind of jammed it in.
Yes.
All right. I want to stand you by. We're going to get back to you guys because we have Joining me now, Brian Fallon, who's the National Press Secretary for the Clinton campaign. Brian, great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm sure you think that she won, and she did beautifully. But let me ask you.
I do.
Let me ask you this before we get to the spin. She's taken some hits for claiming she didn't say that NAFTA was the gold standard. She did say that, right? So what did you make of the fact checking that was done on the spot?
On TPP.
Yeah, I'm sorry, on TPP.
Right. So, look, I think she explained that in the course of the debate. At one point when she was Secretary of State, she was hoping that the deal, when it was finally negotiated in its full detail, would be something she could support. When she saw the details of it, it failed to meet her tests. She's been pretty clear and open about that.
But she denied saying that it was the gold standard, and she did say that.
That was something that was said at an earlier point before the deal was negotiated. I think overall, though, she owned the issue of the economy. The first 15 minutes were devoted to the subject of the economy. I think she took the fight to Donald Trump right away. The economy was the number one issue that we wanted to talk about in this debate because it's the number one issue on the minds of all the voters, including all the persuadable voters that are left in this election still making up their minds. And I think from the beginning she showed that she was the candidate that had the plans to get wages rising in this country, and she really put him on his heels when she said she wants to build an economy that works for everybody, not just those that have a loan from their father to help get them started in business. And that really seemed to touch a nerve.
So overall, did she execute the plan that you had for her? Because we were told by the team that she wasn't going to really try to draw him out, that she didn't think it was worth it. But it seemed like that's exactly what she did. She was on the attack most of the night.
Well, I have to be honest. We were surprised by the Donald Trump that showed up tonight. I mean, this is the Donald Trump that we saw all through the primary, but I really thought that his debate coaches, like Roger Ailes and Kellyanne Conway, were really going to impress upon him the need to really come and try to strike an even tone and show a temperament that he hasn't shown at any point in this campaign in a last-second bid to try to seem like he's temperamentally fit to be commander-in-chief. Instead, I think that anybody that had concerns about Donald Trump heading into this debate only had those concerns heightened. This was somebody that, in the tail end of the debate, seemed to really go off the rails. And he at one point tried to... Well, I think that he doubled down on some of the biggest lies that he's told in this campaign, whether it was his role in promoting the birtherism theory or his support for the Iraq War. I think that led to a tangent that was, quite frankly, hard to follow.
Can I ask you about the birtherism, though? Because understanding all that Trump did to promote that lie, okay?
Right.
Granting for the purposes of this discussion that he did promote that. She did some of that as well.
She didn't.
All right, explain why that's true, because
sure.
Trump was right that the McClatchy bureau chief from the time came out and said that Sid Blumenthal, who was her right-hand person, came to him and said, go to Kenya, go investigate this. We think Trump may have been born there. And so they sent somebody over to Kenya to go investigate it.
So Politico looked into those claims, actually, and a couple weeks ago, Blake Hounshaw from Politico actually published a report. He talked to the reporters that were based overseas that were actually tasked by this editor in Washington to look into this.
I remember.
And they said, this is something else entirely. We weren't looking into birtherism.
They said they couldn't remember. They said they went over, and what the reporter who spoke with this McClatchy bureau chief said was, I'm certain that would have been one of the things they asked us to look into. He said, I don't actively recall it, but I'm certain it's one of the things they would have asked us to look into.
So what Donald Trump really stressed on the debate stage tonight, he invoked the former campaign manager of Hillary Clinton's from 2008.
Patty Louise Doyle.
Right, and said that she went on television last week and admitted that they had some role in the birtherism conspiracy. That's not at all what she said. She acknowledged that there was one regional organizer in Iowa that was peddling this, and as soon as they learned about it, they fired that person.
She fired.
There's a huge difference between that.
Just to let our audience know, this is your candidate, Hillary Clinton, leaving the building, probably going home and taking a rest after a long night here in the former President Bill Clinton, after a long night here at Hofstra University, which was full of fireworks. Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Well, I think actually that we have a debate watch party close by.
Oh, is that right?
Making a stop there. We'll see.
Okay. Well, it wasn't a comment on her health. I'm just saying it's been a hell of a day for even the reporters, never mind the candidates.
I think she looked pretty tireless up there. She
seemed very spry. Her health is fine. Is she over the pneumonia?
Well, I think it takes a while to get over pneumonia, but she certainly didn't show any signs of it tonight.
Before I move away from the birther issue, and I want to see if we have the soundbite. Do we have the soundbite about on Trump talking about how he did President Obama a favor? All right, we don't, but let me paraphrase. He basically said, and I have the notes here, that I think I did a great job for the whole country on that, and for the president himself to get him to release that birth certificate. There were audible gasps inside the auditorium when he said that. What was your reaction?
I mean, what nerve, what chutzpah to act like he did the president a favor after trafficking in a bigoted birtherism conspiracy for 5 years that undercut our first African-American president. I think Hillary Clinton put it in pretty poignant terms about what that meant, both to the country and to the president personally. And it's a shame that he just won't apologize.
What do you make of the fact that these polls have tightened to a place that's got to be somewhat uncomfortable for the Clinton campaign? She had a, almost 7-point lead in the Real Clear Politics average. Now it's down to, at best, 2. Colorado, he's up 1 now. Pennsylvania, within 2. All states that she was winning by double digits just a month ago.
Absolutely. You're exactly right. The race is tightening. And one thing that I don't think people should conclude from tonight is that even though I think this was a huge victory for Hillary Clinton, I don't expect any big change in the polls. I think that's just the nature of the race. I think the contest is going to be tight all the way through the finish line, and it's really going to come down to the ground game.
Last question. Hillary Clinton went on record and called yours truly a superb journalist when Trump was attacking me. Why won't she come on the Kelly File?
I agree 1,000% with her characterization of you as a superb journalist, and I think it's only a matter of time.
Before the election.
I'm going to go back right after I walk off this platform here and make the case that we
get
her on the show.
Brian, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.